for the month of May to order. Okay. We usually begin with public. We have no one signed up for public comment today. We will move on to the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion regarding the consent calendar.
I move that we accept the consent calendar.
I second it.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to accept the consent calendar. Is there any discussion on the items within that? Okay, seeing no questions or discussion, all in favor of approving the consent calendar as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent calendar passes as approved, passes as presented. And so we'll move on to Michael's director's report.
Okay, so a few short snippets to talk about, although the first thing's exciting. The teen area is being upgraded. We're in the process of doing that. So I can't remember if we told you the foundation's annual campaign last year was to raise funds for the teen area upgrades, just like the year before, it raised funds for the children's area. So we've more or less completed the children's project. So now we're moving on to the teen area project. And we've decided the foundation have put $50,000 towards it, which is about what we got for the children's area. And it's got 3 stages. So the first is reconfiguring the space and installing some new shelving. And then we're going to move into more of a construction electrical work phase to we're going to knock through a wall, which will create a bigger space for a teen programming area and study area. And then the idea is to bring more electrical outlets into the space to account for individual devices and charging those devices. Just gives us a lot more flexibility. And then the third part is to purchase and introduce new furniture. So it's getting a big overhaul. All the furniture is being replaced in the space. And again, we're looking at furniture that's flexible, can be moved around, has portable charging stations for devices. Again, just looking at flexibility, using that space for programming and the collection and just a hangout study space for teams. So we started making the first preparation for that, and we'll continue, we guess for several months it might take. It's as we're going through these stages to get it ready. I am working with the Arts Commission on a subcommittee to explore the concept of a poet laureate for Coeur d'Alene. We've kind of got the idea together. It's a matter of the rest of the Arts Commission approving that, and then it's got to be taken as a concept to City Council. And it'll be a similar process, we guess, to a library trustee signing up to be a library trustee. There'll be an application form on the city's website, and then interested applicants can submit that. But again, it's still pending approval from the full Arts Commission and City Council ultimately. You asked me to tell you about times I give presentations or tours. So the Coeur d'Alene Women's Club, our original founders of the library, did stop by the library. So they had a tour. I took them on a tour through the library, and then they really wanted to meet the staff, get to know the kind of key staff and the key areas, see what they're up to and get a few updates. So they said they enjoyed that. And last meeting, you were inquiring about, on the budget, there was $38,983 listed under federal grants. And I explained that was leftover ARPA funding that the city had that was converted into bonuses for full-time non-exempt staff. So it looked like that hadn't been spent, but in reality it had, just city finance were a little behind on reflecting that in the budget documents. So that has been fixed up and it won't be shown there anymore. It's been resolved. So that's it, unless there's any questions.
Is there any movement on the art project?
Oh, the art project, we're still waiting. So the artist, Pete Goldlust, had until the end of this month, May, to give us this final design of the concept and some materials so we can get a feel for it, see what it's going to look like. So we haven't heard any progress updates at the moment, but he does have until the end of the month.
And then Aspen Discovery, is that up yet?
That's going to take a while. So implementation is going to be several months. We're guessing October. It'll finally be ready. So what they're having to do is build individual catalogs for all of the CIN members and then customize them the way that each member wants it to look. And then hopefully as a group in unison, we'll be ready to launch in October.
As a poet laureate to do, what will be the role with that?
So
It has to be decided. So
yeah, the job description has been written up. It very much reflects Moscow established this position. It was about a year ago. So they are having their poet laureates attend, I think it's three, and this is also in our job description, 3 city functions per year, and publish, or not so much publish, but write 2 poems per year that reflects Coeur d'Alene as a place or people, just, yeah, draws back to Coeur d'Alene as the essence of the poem. So that's kind of the job description. They will possibly get a stipend to sweeten the deal. So we'll see what.
when they attend those city events, do they read a poem? Is that it?
Yes, so that's kind of part of it. They do a reading at that city event. It could be one of the poems that they've written specifically to fulfill that 2 poem per year quota, or it could be their past work, or it could be something else that,
Whatever's appropriate.
yeah, whatever relates to the situation.
Lovely idea.
Thanks, Michael. Moving on to our other reports, I see we have Councilwoman Kiki Miller present on the screen, so.
You're really flat, Kiki.
Sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'll just share a few things. The council did direct staff to request a moratorium on demolition permits come back to council as an action item. This kind of was born out of Historic Preservation Commission and some community grassroots organizations that are feeling a lot of angst regarding some of the historic buildings and places that are being demolished. So interestingly enough, the city of Coeur d'Alene doesn't have a demolition code. It just has a permit application that follows the Idaho Building Code process, which basically is more of a safety standard issued thing. So that moratorium would, if it does come to council, I'm hoping it comes by June 18th. The mayor didn't promise that, but it will come to council soon. And if council approves the moratorium, it could give us 6 months or 1 year to take a look at what code or ordinances might need to be changed, how the permit review process might look, what area would be looked at, and what possibly particular buildings would be looked at. The Historical Preservation Commission is midstream in doing inventories in the downtown area and looking at 2 other areas of town in addition to the Garden District, to start cataloging historic buildings and getting the word out about that preservation effort. In conjunction with that, and another reason for, I think, a request for the moratorium is council did direct staff to work with the Downtown Association to review the overlay of that area for what code and designations can happen with buildings down there. And a lot of that's been spurred on by just a couple of recent new large projects. And so some of the things are going to possibly have some recommendations to come back to council on changing some of that design review and code for that area. That may end up stretching to some of the other overlay districts, but that's where it's at right now. There's a subcommittee for budget review. Council member Gookin and Council member McEvers are sitting on that and to try to get ahead of some of the budget process, which the committee's so delayed, it's like we're in budget conversations already. But that was the idea, to have a couple of council members start reviewing budget early. There's some big challenges facing the city this budget season, with some big employee contracts that were approved in the last year. We're pretty upside down with what direction we need to go. So there's a lot of focus being put on budget. And it was Historic Preservation Commission month. They'd had a lot of successful events this last month, including naming the, now I'm going to forget the name of it, John Swallow's building, the 3rd Street Railway Depot. I always want to call it 3rd Street Cantina. In any case, they were given the annual Preservation Award for taking care of the history of that building. And I am continuing, just this last month, the council approved transferring the balance of the funding that was supporting CDA 2030, which converted to Connect Kootenai, and moving that funding to Panhandle Area Council, being restricted for use in the Housing Solutions Partnership work that I've been doing for the last 3 years. So I'm going to be doing that for another at least 9 months. And we've got some other big funders in there. So you'll be hearing about 2 or 3 larger pieces that we're rolling out in the next 3 months to try to deal with our local worker housing issues. So that's a little bit about what's going on there, if you don't have any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Kiki.
You bet.
And we'll move on to a report from Ayla, our student representative.
Well, it feels like it was just yesterday we had another meeting, so it doesn't feel like too much has changed. I'm still looking for a job. Still looking forward to warmer weather. It keeps raining, so still looking forward to that. And the summer programs at the library, we have PortaCon that's gonna be on August 24th, and then we're gonna maybe tie-dye at some point, so that'll be exciting. And then teen programs are taking a break from May 26th-ish to mid-June.
Well, thank you. The Friends of the Library, what?
Yeah, the Friends, their next meeting next Tuesday. And it's kind of a big one in that they're going to be looking at our proposals for the summer reading program. So all of the expenses that come with that, last year they funded, I think it was $1,000 worth of programming supplies and prizes and gifts that we give away during the program. This year, Charlie, a children's librarian, has a pretty ambitious plan, and she's up to $2,000 worth of prizes and giveaways. So I'm going to present that to the Friends, and we'll take it from there, see what they want to do.
Thank you. And Holly, a report from the foundation.
Yes. We had a very successful Monday night dinner. Thank you, Jim, for attending. It was a great group of very friendly little people that enjoyed the weather with sun and music, and we earned over $360 on our raffle items that we had out there. It was kind of a different layout from what they usually have. They usually have raffle items. So that gave us an opportunity to talk about the library and people that, don't come in and see us at the library or are very familiar with it all. So it was a good fundraising event for the library. Anne and Susan have been at Westridge Elementary and Holy Family reading Jim Millie books, Costa Rica, right? For both of them. And then Athol Kindergarten coming down on next Thursday. This is another reading Australia. So that's always fun. David Kilmer is doing the novel destination, talking about Argentina in June 15th. So that's all over the media, social media, so you should be able to see the details from that. He has presented a couple of different times. He's very good, so it'll be fun. Just got word today that the grant that I wrote for the Novia Foundation, we got to sponsor or pay for more of the team we want. That's $15,000. That would be a surprise to get because it's a difficult grant to get. So that was fun.
Yay, Holly.
Yes.
Yeah, congratulations.
And what else? Mudgy and Millie will be at the family day at the city park. June 8th, 7, I think. So they'll be helping all the kids celebrate schools over in summertime. And hey, the board, my board talked about your shower idea for the Post Falls. Helping them with what their needs are, and they were all in agreement with that, figured that he did. To help when we know.
Right. They don't know yet, so it's kind of in limbo right now, but I should know something by the next. I won't know concrete things, but I should have some broad scope kinds of things that we report by next.
Let us know. You're thinking August. So
I'm thinking that September maybe, but so, like I said, they're gonna have to decide what works best for them.
Sure.
They haven't decided yet.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Thank you, Howard.
Well, one thing, when she was talking about the Monday concerts, please pass on to Shia what a great agenda she has for the entire site.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. It sounds so well attended too. Oh, yeah. Yeah, to be that organized, that's great.
Thank you. We are going to move on to our unfinished business. And we begin with material review policy, and I will entertain a motion regarding that.
Steve, I think Steve was talking.
Okay.
Talking now, but we can't hear you. Wait a minute, Steve, because we don't have your voice. We have your face.
Okay,
Okay.
here I am. I move we approve the material review policy with the amendment that I think it changes the wording from should to shall. Or is that the right, am I at the right place? And with the,
That one's not material policy.
okay, wait, I've got it.
That one's the next. So can you see my screen?
I can, yes. And I believe that the amendments that are proposed are appropriate, and so I move we approve it with the amendments proposed.
I said.
It's been moved to approve the materials review amendments that are copies and let Michael speak to it first. Discussion.
Just getting a little bit of feedback. You again, if you don't mind.
The owl is talking.
All right, so.
You're causing feedback.
So what to say about this? It's pretty much exactly as you last saw it. There was that one amendment, which is it highlighted down, number 5. So that was, I think it was Melissa who suggested that, just clarifying it means the board of trustees. So that's on page 3 of your packets. And Randy Adams, of course, played a large hand. City Attorney Randy Adams played a large hand in crafting this, and making sure that, in his view, it meets the new statute and the requirements within. Yeah, not much else to say unless there's any questions.
Well, the only thing that I had is the changing of patron to person, and that's just for sake of continuity, because the rest of our policy state patron instead of person
Yes, now this is complicated by the law, the statute.
by the law.
Yeah, normally we would favor using the word patron, but again, to meet the requirements of the law, it says any person. So we're having to adjust.
Okay, so it's
Based on-
the review policy.
Yes.
Any further questions or? Take up the question to approve the material review policy as presented with the amendments in blue. All of those in favor of approving the policy, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The updated material review policy passes. Next we have let's see, material review and relocation request form, and entertain a motion regarding that.
I move we approve the form as presented. This, I believe this has, just by way of comment, I believe this has some of the additions that I proposed to Michael.
Yes, so I was in touch with Steve. He emailed through his recommendations for the form. So those have been included. It was just clarifying this question here. Are you a minor, parent, or legal guardian of a minor? I think formerly we had just one checkbox for that, but now it's broken, you know, we've just more specific, which one are you? And then reinserting, have you read, viewed, or listened to the entire material? Yes, no. But again, these are not required questions necessarily, they're just more for knowledge. So everything with a red asterisk is a required question.
So is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. So it has been moved and seconded to approve the material review and relocation request as presented. Is there anything else we should know, Michael?
I don't think so. Again, Randy has looked this over and he's happy with it as it is.
And I'd like to say I like the use of the asterisk, that we are still collecting all of that information, even if we can still hit those required ones. Any other discussion or questions? Then all in favor of approving the material review and relocation request form as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have approved the material review and relocation request form. All right, next up, we have the material selection and collection development policy. So I will entertain a motion regarding that.
If we have things in this that we still need to decide on, what is our motion? We're not, it's a approval.
Yeah, we can move to approve it and then amend from the floor after
During
we're
discussion.
started.
Yeah.
And
You
is there
can't
a point,
discuss it until it's a motion and a second.
Right.
and is there an option then at that point that we can table the approval? Okay.
Well, I so move that we accept the selection and collection development policy. I second that.
So it has been moved and seconded to approve the materials selection and collection development policy as presented. Michael, will you please speak to this? And then we'll-
Yeah, there's not too many changes to this. Again, it's more or less how you last saw it. We have included Steve's suggestion that the word should be changed to shall. So that's highlighted there, and then clarifying which Idaho code we're looking at. So it's the 18, 15, 14 of same materials. And then we've updated the Supreme Court's Miller test. So we took that from the US Department of Justice Citizens Guide to US Federal Law on Obscenity. And we took it, it's the Miller test in full. Whereas before we just, I don't know where we got that last definition from, but this is a little bit more conclusive too. Yeah, so not a lot of changes to this policy in general. That is it. So it's just under the censorship section, and we're looking at 3, 4, and a little bit of 5.
Are there any questions or discussion?
I have a question about coming back to the first point here with restricting, pardon me, the requiring a parent party to be present during the application process. Yeah.
That's the.
Oh, is our, we not?
Got it, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So this one starts in materials selection and collection development.
Pages 6 and 7.
Okay, jumping ahead.
Okay, there's a lot today.
No, I'm good on this one.
Okay,
Yes, great.
all right, so with no further discussions or questions, all in favor of approving the materials selection and collection development policy as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The materials selection and collection development policy is approved as presented. And next, I will entertain a motion regarding the, let's see, let me make sure I've got it right. I'm skipping back and forth, the loan policy.
There's a lot of material in this one, so. Not sure which we did discuss, but.
We do need a motion, though.
I move we approve it as presented.
I second
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the loan policy as presented, and I'll let Michael speak to it first.
Or who was the second? Was it Ann?
Steve. Yes.
So,
Oh,
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
and
Steve,
the second.
Steve.
Okay. Loan policy. So this one, I would say that the first 3 you approved are the ones we really want to push through and get ready before July 1st. This one might require a little more thought, a little more discussion. It's not necessary that we approve it today, so it could be tabled, but in essence, based on the conversations we had last time, there's a number of ways you could do this. So we're, first of all, as I've explained last meeting, we have tried with this to tighten our procedure for children signing up for a library card. There were instances, particularly when the outreach team were going up to daycares and when schools were coming in on tour groups, that we would give application forms to the kids. They would take them back home, the expectation being they take them back home, their parent fills it out, and then they bring it back to the library, we issue a library card. We're just trying to make things a little more accessible, make those tours run a lot better, make it a lot easier for the daycares. But with this new statute, we were thinking maybe it's time to tighten those procedures and make it a requirement that if a child or a minor was to sign up for a library card, their parent would have to be present at the library with them to fill out the form. Have a conversation with the staff member to, ensure their responsibilities as a parent as listed on this application form. And I have given it to you. Recognizing that their minor's card can check out anything from the library. They're responsible for monitoring the use. They're also responsible financially for the items in the card. So we decided, the other thing we also do for minors is issue our guide for parents and caregivers, which is a guide, generally speaking, to how we structure the library and how you can use the collections, online accounts, what they have access to. It's kind of a broad guide on what their library card can do. So again, it just having the parent there, we can really reinforce the expectations with that parent. Whereas if we're sending forms home and getting them back, it's not as clear. And the other thing to note is when we do get a completed application form, we keep it on file for 2 years. That's in the city's record retention policy. It's a relatively new update, but it was something that Randy did call for. He thought that it's a contract, therefore we should be holding on to the application form for the duration of that contract, and library cards are valid for 2 years. So that's the 2-year time frame. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay. Anne got in first, so let's. Which one? Anne, we'll take Anne's question. Anne, I'll come back to you, Steve.
No, when the children would fill them out at here or wherever they were, how and when do they get their cards?
So you mean if they,
If they fill this out, do they get their card with the application? Or, I mean, in other words, can the parent come, you still give these out?
Mhm.
Can the parent come to pick up the card with the child and verify?
that's a good point, yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess I hadn't really thought of that. We could send the forms home
Mhm.
to parents, but yeah, so we could still use that as a conduit. Yeah. That expectation would be the parent comes back to the library with the
Correct.
another way of looking at it. What was your question, Steve?
Okay, I actually have 2 or 3. The first would be, how do we make sure that other libraries in the network have the same policy? We don't want a minor from one of our associate libraries that has that would be otherwise restricted in Coeur d'Alene to circumvent the process by taking it out from another library, or you know what I'm saying? It just seems like the policy should be uniform among all the members of the consortium.
Yeah, that'd be nice in theory. I just don't know if it's possible.
I understand. But it might be something worthy of discussion. The second question I have would be, would this be simply, once the policy were adopted, whatever variation we use, would it be going forward from the date of adoption, or would it be retroactive so that minors who currently have a card would have to reapply so their parent could restrict or allow the minor access as desired?
I would say, yeah, that's kind of the second piece of this whole thing, which I'll get to, because there are some options on the table. But in terms of requiring parents and legal guardians to sign, I think we would just do that moving forward. I'm not sure we would do that retroactively. Well, we could do it either way, I suppose, but
Have to cancel all cards?
yeah, it would be that situation where we would have to put a block or restriction on all the minors' cards and then force their parents to come in and re-sign forms that they might have signed not that long ago and that we already have on file.
Right. Although if we're going to institute um, um, a card that allows access for minor and juvenile collections only, couldn't that block be applied to any outstanding minors cards? And so only if a minor wanted access to the full collection would the parent have to come in and allow that, sign something to allow that. I'm just throwing that out as an idea. I don't know if that would work or not. And then my third question was, I had suggested that the parents be required to sign a waiver, and I've kind of rethought that, and maybe it would be sufficient if it were simply a warning. I hate to say that word. If it were a warning to parents that their child might access some books that they don't want them to look at, if they allow an unrestricted card.
Yeah, and you can't see it right now, but I have got our application forms. And so down the bottom, before a parent signs, they are agreeing to, I, as an individual or as the parent legal guardian of a child, shall comply with all library policies, accept responsibility for all materials borrowed from the library, and will give immediate notice of any injuries. If the card is lost or stolen, I understand I must notify the library immediately. If signing as the parent or legal guardian of a child and the children have access to all materials in the library, and I accept responsibility monitoring my child's access to print, media, and electronic formats, including the internet. If signing as the parent legal guardian of the child, my initials indicate I have received the guide for parents and caregivers. And again, that guide for parents and caregivers, I mean, it's not so much a warning, but it does lay out how the library is structured and what the card can do and has access to.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, Randy's not so in favor of the waiver, and having looked at the application form, he's thinking, well, the application form's kind of it already. So there's that to consider.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thought as well, that, I guess I would be a little even more conservative than Randy and require or be a little more explicit in the warning that and refer to I'll have to think about that some more.
We can update that language. So what I just read can be altered any way we see fit.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, those are my comments.
Okay.
I am opposed to the proposal of requiring parents to be present for the library card application. I can think of a number of parents that I work with who are doctors who work 12 hours a day and who cannot come in to sign a library card application. And I can think of many applications I filled out electronically this week that I did not go in any place but to sign my kids up for School Plus and to sign them up and they were all electronic things that I checked boxes and I signed, and nothing was in person to verify my existence, and or participation in sports programs. And I read a lot of legalese in many, many boxes that was not me being present, and I hate to put up a roadblock to kids getting access to the libraries. And you can think of many scenarios of children who either have parents who work exhaustive hours of any socioeconomic status in our community, kids in the foster care system, kids who have any number of scenarios that they need to have easy access to this public space. And I hate to put a roadblock between them and getting in here to check out books.
It is a significant point, but maybe Randy needs to look at when you can sign legal documents online and that the courts accept that as a valid signature. I think it would be worth putting to him.
You can electronically request your absentee ballot. You don't have to be present to request your absentee ballot.
I think the reason is that the statute is pretty specific, requiring a parent or a guardian to be present. Unless I'm reading it wrong, I think that's exactly what the legislature intended, to require the parent to physically come into the library. I mean, I agree with your point 100%, but I think the legislature is throwing up a roadblock, and the blame has to be placed squarely on the legislature. But I would defer to Randy's interpretation.
I know you're distant, but do you happen to recall the section that it says parents need to be present? I understand that if we could reference that in the legislation, but I don't know if you.
I don't have it right in front of me because I'm doing this on my phone and I don't have my file with me. Sorry.
If we could figure out a way when people register their child for first kindergarten, if we could have people at the locations where they register their child for kindergarten, because a parent has to come in for that, Melissa.
Really?
They do, they have to, they bring their child in, because there's quite a few legal forms they have to sign at that point. Then when new kids come into the district, they have to come with their child to the district office or somewhere. I'm not sure I remember exactly how that goes. But they do have to come someplace at the beginning to get their child enrolled in our school district. If we had a way that we could have library cards right there and they could sign that as they wished, whatever way they wanted it to be on that one trip. And we wouldn't get everyone, but we would probably get a significant part of the population that way, since they all have to come for that one visit. It'd be just part of the paperwork that day. I mentioned that last month too. I don't know if we need to do that. I don't know where, I know we're thinking we might table this and take it on when some of the other libraries get to this part. So we're all more uniform in how we handle it. But I think that's something to think about as a possibility, and maybe see what Randy says about how can that be interpreted about.
Electronic forms.
Yeah, and
We do have electronic library cards sign up. It's just with the system that we have, it's run through Coeur, our library management system. It's just not very sophisticated. And then there's that question of the physical handing over of the card. And then in some cases, proving their address. How do you, in our policy, they have to prove their address to get a library card. It could just be their driver's license.
they could scan that right into the same record.
Yeah, because they have to present a photo ID.
Yeah, right. Photo ID, proof, which doubles up more often than it's proof of address. And then we've got to physically hand them the card. So, I mean, there's just some barriers to that. So we have it as an option, but at the end of the day, they can fill out an application form online, and all it really does is pre-populate Coeur with their details. They still have to come in, show their ID, have us clean it up, and then issue the card.
But then, what we're talking about is if it would be possible to not have them come in, if they could scan in their driver's license or their utility bill that proves their address.
Yeah.
And they can scan in the picture identification when they're signing, they could mail in this document. I know that the patent office accepts anything sent through the mail as a legal document as of the postage date, if it's sealed. And Randy would know if that would be binding. But I know for patents, like you can mail your document to yourself. Let's say it's an engineering plan, and you want to be sure it's protected as of this date. Somebody else might come along and say, no, I did it first. If you don't open that document and it's opened in court in front of the judge, and the postage date and time is on the envelope, that stands up in court as you have the prior patent application. You have to obviously have applied for a patent too. But that's the one, it's the postage marking in a sealed document that makes it valid. So that's something Randy could come to with.
No, I recently got a reader's card with the Library of Congress, and I had to go to the Jefferson Building in Washington, DC to receive that card, even though I'd filled out extensive forms before I flew to Washington, DC even, so.
Yeah, it's just kind of the way libraries have always done it. So, I mean, and this whole idea of sending kids home with forms to get them filled out and brought back. I mean, it was, I don't know, it was opening it up a lot at the time, trying to break down those barriers. And yeah, unfortunately with the statute, I mean, I don't know what to do exactly, but it feels like we do have to go backwards a little bit.
So the legislation says that we need to take reasonable steps to restrict access by minors to material harmful to minors.
Right, and
Reasonable.
And this is one of those reasonable steps we're thinking.
Could some of our reasonable steps we have in place already be reasonable steps? And we have a children's section, we have a teens section. We have a materials relocation process, review and relocation process. They're all very reasonable steps. I don't know that having a parent come in to sign the library card does not then restrict access.
Right, and as I'm looking at the legislation too, I'm seeing, let's see, it'd be on page 3, the lines from about 28 to 40 here. That's about obtaining the material that if the minor was accompanied at the time of the act by his parent or legal guardian or by another adult, and the adult represented that he was the minor's parent or legal guardian and signed a written statement to that effect. It's not about receiving the library card, it's about at the time of the material. So I mean that if we were trying to go to that level of restriction, that would be that a child could not check out anything without their parent or guardian present. I don't think any of us, I personally do not want to go to that. That's an unreasonable restriction.
So it's not the statute that says photo ID, that's our interpretation.
Statute doesn't address library card sign up. That's our own
At all,
policy.
at all. Okay, okay.
Okay, so I'm hearing that maybe we should have Randy take another look at this, sort of put forward our concerns, have him take a look, and then at the same time, maybe explore what options are out there for electronic sign up. Maybe things have improved with Coeur, I don't know. Yeah, explore that. What are the options there on the table that are in front of us?
That then allows you to link to your guide for caregivers right there. They can read it at the time of signing. I've reviewed this. You could even say I've reviewed the caregiver guide. I understand my responsibilities as a parent.
Okay.
Well, that's.
It does say that on there, but
Yeah.
you can link right to the document. They have time to read it from the comfort of home.
Is Steve still muted?
Steve's there.
Yeah, so I guess the concept of requiring a parent to sign for it is essentially to waive liability for the library. So you have a minor that has a card, an unrestricted card, and goes and picks out a book in the library that the adult section that the minor wants to read. And we're talking maybe a 16-year-old, right? Perfectly normal. But the parent sees it and goes, oh my God, this is pornographic. This is disgusting. This is awful. I'm going to sue the library. Unless the parent is there when the child checks the book out, then it's okay. So what we're trying to do is figure out a way to get around the parent having to be there when a minor checks out a book in the adult section that might have some salacious language in it that would cause a whole host of unintended consequences. If the parent, whose identity has already been ascertained, has had the warning saying that your child is capable of checking this out, then the parent has consented in effect to that. That's the problem we're trying to figure out, and I say that from the perspective of an attorney, because otherwise I agree. I don't, my personal opinion is anybody should be able to check out any book anytime they want, but that's not what the legislature wants. So I agree. Maybe what we should do is table this and have Randy look at it again and see if he can come up with some other ideas.
Okay, there is a second part to this whole thing. So we've been talking about library card sign up. So the second part is what to do with minor cards. And so there's several options to take. So there is option 1, so on page 10. Option 1, offer parents and legal guardians the option to get a minor card that is restricted to checking out materials shelved in the juvenile and young adult collections only. Option 2 is to kind of follow that same process, but also institute Steve's idea of a waiver. So basically it would be all of our parents, caregivers, legal guardians.
Can you turn that off?
Give them a full access card, or if they do not, we give their a restricted card, restricted again to the children's and young adult collections. Or there's a third option, and that is simply to not offer any restrictions on cards, continue as we are right now. And I guess given that things are still very uncertain regarding the statute, how things are going to play out, I think right now the wise thing would just to maintain the way we do things now. We have other options on this and come back to it if we need to, but right now let's just go into July 1st, at least for minors cards, no restriction. And I think the staff would probably agree with that. Anyway, if you're tabling this whole policy anyway, it's something to bring up next time. Yes.
I would be interested in knowing more about how the community library network is.
I wouldn't do that.
Well, but how that is affecting, I mean,
What the
how our systems mesh or do not mesh.
So the minors who have those cards, if they're to our library, and what we've had to do while post has been closed is that generally they're coming with their parents, and we're asking the parent if you wanted over to being a full access card again, so they can actually use it at our library. And more, I think nearly every parent is yes. It makes me wonder, did they even know what they were signing in the first place?
I've been very curious as we're going with this, and they moved.
I believe, I mean,
Yes.
they have 200 families have opted for those cards.
Okay.
Out of thousands upon thousands of patrons.
Interesting.
I think I said already that I think we are already taking reasonable steps. I am more in favor of a modest approach at this time and the option 3 to maintain what we're doing because you reasonable steps within the library to protect minors from harmful materials. And that would be something. Having Randy come back would be a good idea to ask a few of the questions around card restrictions and then see if we have other.
Do you wish to move to table for the next meeting?
Can't do that. We have to vote on the motion that's on the floor,
But we can.
and then somebody could move that we table.
No, motion to table
no.
takes precedence.
Oh, that's okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So would you like to move to table this?
Yeah, I would so move. And I would table it until our next meeting with hopefully that we can get some advice or more discussion from Randy until then.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to table the motion to approve this, it is the loan policy as presented. All the, for our next meeting in June. All those in favor of tabling consideration of this policy, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Our consideration of the loan policy is tabled for the next meeting. Is there a motion regarding the behavior policy?
Let's see here.
That we kept the behavior policy as amended.
Yeah, I'd second that.
To approve the behavior policy as presented with amendments here. Michael, would you please speak to this one?
Yes, so this one probably caused the most controversy. Last time we discussed it, so we kind of went back to the drawing board on crafting this one. So all of the amendments in blue are just general. They're not actually related to anything. It was just Randy deciding some of these need updating, so we did that. So what we're coming down to is unaccompanied minors and vulnerable adults. So last time, I know Katie certainly expressed her concerns about this whole thing. So we took a look at it again. We've updated some of the language. We're now using unaccompanied rather than unintended. I don't know if they're significantly different, but to me, unattended means they're coming to the library totally alone. Like unaccompanied means, what am I saying? Oh, sorry, other way around. Unattended means here within unaccompanied, yeah, they're not in the building at all. So, and we're also taking the opportunity to look at vulnerable adults, which is also part of the statute in any case. And we've stuck with our original guideline. So minors 9 years old or younger and vulnerable people of any age should be accompanied by a responsible party when visiting the library. And then minors 5 years old or younger must be directly supervised by a parent, legal guardian, or caregiver. So we're going back to those original age specifications that we've set. So then coming down to number 2, minors and vulnerable adults are expected to follow behavior guidelines listed above and may be asked to leave library property at the library staff's discretion. Parents and legal guardians are responsible for the behavior of their minors, whether or not they are present, and caregivers are responsible for the behavior of minors or vulnerable adults in their care while at the library. And number 3 was, this also includes Melissa's suggestion last time, but I'll get to that. So there were questions over should library staff be, spread out throughout the library, policing things, making sure that every minor was accompanied at all times. And that's just unrealistic. We don't have the staff for that. not something we can do. So we're kind of playing a more passive role. So if it comes to the attention of library staff that are 9 years old or younger, is unaccompanied while in the building and requires supervision, staff will attempt to contact the parent or legal guardian and request pickup or supervision within 30 minutes. If the parent or guardian cannot be reached, or the minor is not picked up or supervised within a 30-minute time frame, staff will contact the Coeur d'Alene Police Department and inform the library director or designee. And then this was Melissa's suggestion. While staff attempt to make contact with parents, legal guardians, or the police department, an effort will be made to watch over the minor until they're picked up or supervised. So that kind of mirrors what we do after hours. We're supervising them after hours. So even during hours, we are supervising them until they are supervised or picked up or the police department. And yeah, those are the major changes, but in essence, it's kind of how we did things anyway. We're just clarifying and broadening it a little bit. Yeah. And now's the time to do that, I suppose. It's to really make our expectations and what our procedures really apparent.
Is there a legal definition of vulnerable adult?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Steve, do you know?
I don't.
In practice, number 3 here, the minors under age 9, you see that they are unaccompanied and they require supervision. I would assume that this means that some kids who look young, 6 or 7, and they're kind of running amok, like
Yeah.
they need someone to rein them in. It's not the library's job to moderate the behavior of young children and to babysit young children. So, but if there are kids, then you would maybe take some action to locate the parents.
Yeah.
Make sure that the parents are there and can help with what the situation. But then if you found, it's not that the library is going around looking for young kids and saying, where's your parents? It's like really the problem behavior things that are coming out of that. In practice of this policy, that's what would happen.
I think in practice, the majority of the time that would be it, because I think that's the only way it would come to our attention. That's the only way we realize that this particular child is alone and needs supervision. Yeah, again, it's a more passive approach, but it's the way we've always done it. And if we're really truly saying that parents are responsible for the behavior of their children, whether they're here or not with them, then I think that's the only way to play it.
Is there something liability wise that says that? Is the library then saying that, is there something in this policy that says the parent is responsible for the behavior and safety of their children? I'm
Well,
worried.
the library is a public space.
Okay.
It's like the park. I mean, it's expectations of people using the park is the same in the library. I mean, we have a few reasonable restrictions in that, we generally like it to be quieter and not disturb each other and respect that people are using the library for many different uses and things. But generally, I don't think we have much on the liability front, given that it is a public space.
As on the library identification, all library policies. I guess it's not specifically stated that maybe in liability have to be understood.
Yeah, so our behavior policy in essence captures our reasonable restrictions. So yeah, so we're talking about, destruction, vandalism, disturbing behavior, violence, theft. I mean, that's what we're addressing. I think in the case of a child who's disrupting others, I mean, that would probably be the situation where we're looking to address one way or the other, depends on their behavior, but those are the instances we would be addressing.
I did a quick search to see if there's a definition of vulnerable adults, and it's in the code that's abuse, exploitation, or neglect of a vulnerable adult. Would it make sense to reference the definition from that policy? From that
Yeah, most likely.
code in here?
Sure, we could, yeah, give it a definition just to clarify that. That'd be helpful. I can discuss that briefly.
Okay. Then I can give you where I found it, if that would be helpful too.
Yeah, if you could send that through. So I think this is one, don't necessarily have to approve today. You could table this, especially if you're looking to add some amendments that we're not quite sure about, like providing that definition. Again, the first three were the important ones today. I think this one we could revisit.
We want to explore in that language, defining vulnerable people. We need to table it.
Say so. Yeah, great.
I motion that we table the behavior policy.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of tabling consideration of the behavior policy for next meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have tabled consideration, the motion carries, and we have tabled consideration of the behavior policy for our next meeting. That is the end of the unfinished business. Is there? Seeing none, our next regularly scheduled meeting is June 26, 2024, at 4 p.m. again in this room. Give everybody a moment to check calendars. June 26th.
While they're checking, the Washington libraries have somehow been able to receive the Dungeons and Dragons game that they say is very popular among adults and children. And I'm thinking of the new teen center, and I'm wondering if that's anything. I know nothing about it, nothing about Dungeons and Dragons, but you know anything about it.
I'm pretty sure we already have two Dungeons and Dragons kids.
Do you already have the table?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we just need to promote it now that it's been in the newspaper.
Quite sure. But we have D&D kits and D&D books, and we used to have a D&D program as well.
Because the senator or house person in Washington that somehow got it, he plays it all the time with there, I mean, wherever he lives. And he says it's great in the library and it gets lots of adults in there.
So I'm hearing no fix for the next meeting, so we should have a quorum. In that case, the May regular Library Board of Trustees meeting is now adjourned.
Thanks, Steve. We'll see you.
Yes, thank you.